Hey, everybody, this is Matt Fuller, COO here of Jason's Heart in Lincoln, Nebraska. Welcome to our podcast. I'm going to get started off. We got a couple other folks that are going to jump in here and join us. So let's go ahead and bring in our other participants. Oh, there they are. There they
Hello.
are. How's it going, gentlemen?
Not too bad. This
Very
is the
good.
first time in the new podcast room,
I
and we
know.
have Kurt with us today.
Yep, I got his information up there. So with CenterPoint.
Yes. Yes. It's good to be
Yes.
here.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. And, I think just kind of lining out, what we're talking about a little bit. We've sort of been on this kind of a 4-part journey. We're sort of on part 2, really focusing on, behavioral health, substance use, health, things like that, mental health. So that's kind of our segment, excuse me. And of course, we wanted to bring Kurt on today to talk about his role a little bit and continue to explore this topic and how we make a big difference, or a better difference, I should say, in our community. So Jason, I'm going to let you take it and talk, introduce Kurt, and let's find out a little about him too.
All right. Well, again, we have Kurt Lockard with us, Director of Community Support. I actually remember meeting you when I first started here at Soren. You were down at the Day Rehab Center. And kind of give us a little idea of your journey through behavioral health companies and your work
Sure.
experience there, if you could, please.
Absolutely. Nebraska native. Went to Peru State College for my degree. I actually have a degree in business administration management. And pretty quickly after that, found myself working in human services with kids in foster care systems. Worked through different agencies through the last 15 years, doing various human services jobs. Worked with developmental disabilities. Again, worked with a lot of. I was a foster parent for a while. Ended up working with the state Lincoln Regional Center for several years, working with mental health. And that's really where I found kind of my niche, my passion, was working with people who are dealing with mental health and substance use issues. And not long after I was working at the regional center, ended up getting an opportunity to apply for a position with CenterPoint it'll be 5 years ago next month. I've been here. So almost 5 years I've been with CenterPoint. And had the opportunity to come and run their day rehabilitation center for adults with severe and persistent mental illness, and have a real opportunity to serve the people in the community before they are at a place like at the regional center. They were already pretty unwell and had needed a lot more support, to the point where they were obviously sent to a locked facility. We wanted to work with people before they got to that point and try to help them stay well in the community, and was able to do that for several years at the day center called Midpoint, right off of O Street there. And about a year into the pandemic, an opportunity came to come and help do this job that I'm currently in as the Director of Community Support, where I am in charge of several teams that work with individuals in the community where they live. Literally, instead of like at Midpoint where they would come to us and receive some groups and some different kind of treatment, we go to them in the community and help them get connected to resources, help them build healthy supports, help them wherever they're at in their journey with mental health or substance use. A lot of times it revolves around housing, making sure that they're stably housed, making sure that they have all the resources they need just to get their basic needs met, and then try to help them build healthy supports so that they can maintain a healthy life and get better quicker, sooner for longer, which is our mission at CenterPoint. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
When did CenterPoint start, Kurt?
As an agency,
Yeah.
ooh, man, I just heard Topher say this the other day.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was
No, it's okay. It's I want to say 1970
Whoa.
something.
Wow.
I'll leave the end blank. It's been around. Next, actually, I know, because it'll be Next year, the 73, because next year will be our 50th anniversary as an agency. So we started in 1973.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the difference when working down at Midpoint where they came to you? Now you're with a team that goes out to their location, to their environment. What's some advantages in doing that versus having them come to you?
Sure. Both have their place. In fact, a lot of times, individuals, if they're in that place, could do both. They could get the services during the day at the rehabilitation center, and then in the afternoon, they could have a case manager pick them up and help connect them to resources in the community. So there is a need for both at times. But the biggest difference is when we're going to meet them in the community for the staff, that is, we're meeting them where they are. It's meeting them in their world, in their comfort zone, where they're most likely to really be comfortable, to start to trust us, and for us to be able to find out what brought them to the place where they are now, and what we can do from a community support perspective to try to help build those either healthy supports connected to the right resources. I'm gonna probably say the same things over and over again because it's a lot of what we do, to make sure that if we're in there, if they do have an apartment, but they are lacking in some basic needs, try to connect them to those basic needs, like even something as simple as a bed or warm winter clothes. We do also work with one of the teams that I work with right now is our street outreach team, and it's just what it sounds like. They go onto the street and they meet the individuals who are experiencing homelessness where they are in the camps that are around Lincoln. They are oftentimes out of sight, so people in Lincoln don't often realize they exist, but they do. And we go into those camps, my team does, and they try to connect those people to resources to get them housed as quickly as we can. There are several resources in Lincoln to try to connect them to. So community support, a big part of it. The word community is there for a reason. We go to them in the community as often as we can. We try to connect them to resources in the community. The idea being to be self-sufficient in the end, and be able to support themselves and in a healthy way with healthy supports. So,
thank you for what you do there. I know I've seen some stories before on the outreach program, and it's amazing to see your team go out there and make those connections and those relationships with the people who are there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What's do you know, Kurt, just offhand, as far as kind of the reach and impact you guys have year to year, like how many folks come through your facilities, and are you guys able to help?
Sure. I wish I would have been able to look up that data before I came here. We have a great team that pulls together a lot of data from our electronic health record, where we are tracking all of that stuff. But
Yeah.
any given time, we're serving around, from community support up to, I want to make sure I get the right number, around 200, 300 people, depending on if we're fully staffed or not at a time. There's not a real time limit on community support, so somebody could be in our services for a couple of years until they really get everything they need in their ducks in a row, so to speak. And sometimes the mental health and substance use journey is one that is full of ups and downs and forwards and backwards, and so we're with them during all of that. And so as far as the quantitative number, definitely in the hundreds per year. We are always trying to get more efficient at getting people into services quicker, and then also, obviously the goal is to get them better for sooner for longer. So the sooner we can get people back on their feet and then get the next person in the door to get help, the more we're able to serve the community in a more efficient capacity and really help as many people as we can. So I don't have specific numbers, but we do serve quite a few.
yes.
That's a huge impact.
Yes, and I know, supporting CenterPoint on the technical side with our sister company, Soren, you have a lot of locations here, and each location has a different mission in what they're doing. the midpoint is with your dual diagnosis. Your outpatient, where that's where we have people coming in for their therapy and some medications, nurses, doctors, and also counselors. So that's kind of neat how prevalent you are, and you do help a lot. So
And I'm talking a lot about my team, but as a community support team, as case managers, and we have outreach, all of those teams are a part of a greater outpatient clinic. And we are a CCBHC, a certified community-based behavioral health clinic. And make sure I said that right. Yes, a lot of acronyms in this world. And so the idea being a whole health approach. And so it's not just, the case managers work with primary care providers who work with psychiatric medication providers, who work with clinicians. So if they walk through our doors, we do our best to get them connected with somebody who can help them find the resources in the community, but also if they need help with medication management, physical health needs, therapy, all those things are available in one spot, so they can walk in the door and get help. And when they have a whole health approach, a whole team that comes around them to support them in their journey. So, and we're a part of that greater outpatient team.
So with some of the groups that you have worked with in the past, what's some hindrances that they would have when it comes to employment? What's some things that you have seen there in your time? And what's some things that you would like to see to help them out in that area?
As far as individuals becoming employed?
Yes.
Okay. Probably the number one thing outside of just being at the right place for that moment in their journey is that if they lack the skills or if they lack the education, many times it can also be their if they have felonies in their background, that can interfere with who will be willing to hire them. And then really just making sure they're at a place where that's the healthy thing for them at that time, from a mental health and a substance standpoint. And that is, again, with that team approach, if they're at that place where they're ready for employment, and that's awesome to see when it happens. And just this week, I had a person I was talking to who they were talking about how they have a full-time job and they were able to get their own insurance, and they're just moving into a new place. Just one of those times where you get to see everything come together for somebody who just a year and a half ago was street homeless, and now they're living in their own apartment, have a full-time job. The barrier for them was just, finding the right fit for them, where their skill sets are, helping them understand where their strengths are, where their passion is too, and really connecting them to some resources. There's a few resources out there for like voc rehab and things like that, but trying to find the resources to help them get connected. Sometimes with education, going to Southeast community colleges where a lot of people kind of start that journey. Places like that will help them kind of maybe find a new path, or maybe before they weren't sure what they wanted to do. So it kind of varies per person.
Understand. Real quick, Matt, looks like we're having a slight technical difficulty. Our screens are frozen, it looks like.
Oh, okay. It looks like they're still going here, so it may just be in there.
Okay.
No worries. Again, this is a brand new podcast room.
It's working there, but it's not working there.
There we go.
Yeah.
This is the first time that we've gone through on this. We've done many tests, but you know how things go.
Yeah, absolutely.
The tests work fine, and in live, that's where you get the real test. So
it's okay. It works.
No worries. Awesome. We're good then.
Hey, one thing too that I know, Kurt said something that was really interesting about the timing and being at being there at that right moment when they're ready for that transition. And I know, Jason and I talk a lot, obviously, with Jason's Heart and the podcast, and, really trying to line out our nonprofit partners in the work you all do, because it's incredibly valuable. And I should say invaluable, frankly. But do you know, or see any numbers, whether it be Nebraska or nationally, folks that potentially relapse or recidivism with being incarcerated or in custody? Do you know kind of what that looks like? Is there a number that jumps out?
Nothing that's coming to mind, but I can tell you if I come back in a year, I'm going to have all this stuff ready for you and have everything lined up so I can have some good information for you. I can tell you that just from the limited experience that I have in working here, that if a person gets to a place where they are stably housed and are all their basic needs are being met, they're able to get access to healthy foods, and they have gotten to a place where they have healthy supports, their sobriety is on the right track, and they are at a full-time job, they tend to succeed really pretty well. I don't know the overall arching percentage. In our world, even just having, 10% of the people we work with get to that point any given time is a huge success. It's what we do is, I always describe it as kind of a glacial pace. It's really, we're making a huge difference. The whole world gets transformed by glaciers, but we don't always get to see it. And we don't always get to see the end result, but we know we're making it happen. So I don't have the numbers, but I do know that if all of those things, those healthy supports, the basic needs are being met, they have a much higher chance of not, relapsing either from a mental health perspective or a substance perspective. So, and maintaining some independence and being able to be successful, especially if they continue to maintain relationships with their, with a therapist moving forward, and just continue to, again, those healthy supports even after we as a support team are gone from their life. So,
Yeah.
And I know and I just had it on the tip of my tongue, and of course,
that's how it goes.
I do this every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It never fails. It
You
always
need a little notepad or
Yes,
something.
I know. I've been thinking about that. But the thing I was going to say on there is, I know with Jason's Heart, we just actually had a class. Michaela just did a online class just prior to you coming in here. And we offer that on Facebook. We offer that for people that actually come here for classes. We offer classes that we can go to different places. And that's something that her class was just on, ways of writing a resume,
Okay.
Good ways. That's something that, you talk about all the different support, trying to get some education out there with the Southeast Community College, but that's something that Jason Hart also offers.
Okay.
And so, we're trying to help. I know the percentages out there. I don't have them myself. I know they're, not the best, but if there's something that we can do, that's something that we're trying to do to help, increase it from, let's say, 10% to 11%, as long as it's more. We also have the apprentice program. So we're definitely, I wanted to, have chats with you on how we can, get those free classes to some of your clients.
Sure. Are the classes specific to certain skills or
Yep.
tech?
We have our classes that are over resumes,
Okay.
over going through interviews. Matt has a couple that are on finances. He just did one Tuesday on saboteurs.
Okay.
That's something that, when you look at anyone in the world, when they're taking steps forward, sometimes something inside their head maybe is saying, hey, hold on, slow down. I know I have times where I may not be as confident as what I should be because of a low voice. That's one of my saboteurs. So he just did that on that, and that might be helpful for a lot of people. So those are things that we're trying to do to help you also increase those numbers and percentages.
Absolutely.
Well, and that was at NABHO last week. That Joyce Martyr that spoke on her financial mindset book was particularly kind of resonated for me. My background was in banking and finance. I've been in the nonprofit world forever, but not predominantly my main focus, which it now is, obviously. But just hearing her talk about that, I mean, there were so many parallels to some of the little things like the personal financial hacks and the saboteurs, and just, helping people understand, hey, you're not different in that way. We all have the negative voices, the gremlins and saboteurs and shadow beliefs. We have all those things, and there's some little things you can do. But trying to bring something like that that's free, that's of value, but is also aligned with what programming those folks may be doing that are experiencing those barriers in their life.
Absolutely. A lot of the perspective we take in what we do is taken from, if you're familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and and at the base level is going to be shelter and food, and all these things that a lot of times we do take for granted, all the way up to self-actualization, as the kind of that top tier, and then there is a beyond that hasn't that anyway. So the top tier most people are familiar with is that self-actualization part, but somewhere in there should almost be an update, because with today's world, technology is a huge part of what's going to make somebody successful and be successful, maintain being successful in their life. And there is a tech competency issue a lot of times with the population, because they haven't really had access to a lot of the things that we have become accustomed to outside of maybe what they were exposed to when they went to high school. And so helping them get, some of that competency is going to be huge for them to get, one of those, what is now almost a basic need, met in their life. So I think that's important.
Well, yeah, like even in, oh, sorry. Yeah. Even in Michaela's class, I mean, it's crazy. Just, you could literally do an hour just on this technology piece of it, because like you can't even apply for a job anymore without a fairly significant amount of technological prowess, or experience with it, because it's just that it's all ingrained now.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's what I was going to say with the apprentice program that we have going on. Our application is live. I'm waiting. Yeah, I know we have a lot of interested parties out there. I'm really interested in moving forward with that. But once we get there, we're going to have a wider range of people. We might have some people who have that technology. We may have someone who's never touched it. And so that's part where we're going to start from that beginning and move through there.
That's
so
awesome.
that will really help out, I believe, on some things there. So that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, even our cats have a robot now.
Yes.
I mean, seriously, like technology touches every part of our lives.
It does.
It does.
Absolutely.
So, I was going to ask too, if you all had seen any shift, and I don't know if this is right in your guys' wheelhouse, but have you seen or heard of it, like any changes with COVID and how that has impacted not only adults, but maybe younger people? Or what are your thoughts on that? It just seems like I'm hearing a lot more about it now.
COVID, and I mean, it's a pretty broad question, so I don't know how broad of an answer you want, but it's been incredibly impactful in the lives of every individual that walks through our door, including the staff who serve them. There isn't a person I know that hasn't been impacted by what's been going on the last couple of years. From a mental health substance perspective, at first, I wondered how the individuals we serve would react to it. And I got to tell you, like, I was pretty impressed, and they took it a lot more seriously than a lot of people, in the professional world around me, not in CenterPoint, but just that I was witnessing in my own personal life. And so, they were masked up when they walked through our door. They were making sure to keep some distance, and we were able to start doing some telehealth services for a while, which, now there is a positive sort of spin on what happened over the last couple of years, because for a long time, telehealth services had kind of been not really something that we were able to do from a funding perspective, and it's only temporary at the moment. But I think it's going to keep the conversation going about how important telehealth services are for people who are, maybe they're physically incapable of getting to an appointment at our clinic. Maybe they, or maybe they're dealing with some mental health issues that they're too afraid to come for some reason, for one reason or another, to visit in person for services. So to have that ability over the last couple of years has I think saved lives for sure. And I hope moving forward that it continues to a degree. In certain, having face-to-face contact is hugely important. Not having face-to-face contact on the flip side of that was detrimental to a lot of the people that we served, and we saw some real increases nationwide from a suicide perspective, from people coming into services seeking out help, and that's across the board, across all mental health across the United States, probably the world, I would assume, that mental health services were trending upwards and people reaching out for help, because it's been a rough 2 years for a lot of people. Another kind of a positive that came out of it was through some of the federal funding. All of the internet providers, at least in our area, connected to quite a few of the apartments that our individuals lived in, and we were able to get them for a time free internet, which again, that basic needs piece of things for them was huge to have access to the world while they were trapped in their home for a while, you know. And so there was some good that came out of it, and but a lot of people really have it's taken a big toll on their mental health. It's taken a big toll on their substance use journey, and just, you know, we've there's a lot of help that is needed out there. So we're definitely trying to help people, you know, still through it. I mean, we're kind of hopefully, you know, fingers crossed, you never know, pulling up out of it, but you know, it's been a long couple of years for the people we're serving.
I do have a question here. I know that in the last few years, we've had a lot of movements with, like, you know, say, for example, mental health matters. You know, there's a stigma out there when it comes to mental health. What is it? What's something that society can do to better understand mental health, that it's not something that needs to be swept under the rug
Sure.
or pushed off in the corner,
Yeah.
but something that we need to address? What's something that we as a society can do to help understand people who are going through issues like that?
Sure. If you were at the NABHO conference last year or last week, and NABHO is the Nebraska Association of Behavioral Health Organizations, right? Am I getting that
Yep.
acronym right?
Yep.
And so first conference since the pandemic, and so it was awesome to see a lot of the providers there. And every time I've went to that conference over the last few years, pre-COVID, they always have the buttons there at the table when you check in, and it says 1 and 5. I don't know if you saw that, those buttons.
Yeah, I did see that.
And it's one of those things where it may just seem like a small number, but if you really think about the perspective of that being 20% of anybody you know has went through a major mental health issue in their life or is still dealing with one. So, you know, a small family unit usually has about 5 people in it. One of you is dealing with a major mental health issue. And so, if you think about it from that perspective, there's 20% of the people, you know, are dealing with some stuff that maybe you don't even know they're dealing with. And so mental health transcends, you know, what the media and TV and the movies portray it as, you know, and to the degree that I've had to include in some of my onboarding education with people, you know, that the movies love to make out like the violent side of things, and it's just so rare to see any kind of violence in our world. It's more likely to be somebody that's not in our world that you know has those issues. But I say all that to say that for somebody who maybe doesn't have the perspective I do, that the conversation should be the same kind of conversation if somebody came to you and said that they had cancer, or if they had, you know, just fill in the blank physical health issue, or whatever, you know, comparable thing that we as a society tend to be pretty open to talk about. Like, oh, wow, you're going through that. How can I support you? Mental health should be the same thing. If somebody says, I'm depressed, or I'm having, you know, really having a hard time, maybe they don't use the specific language, but you can kind of pick it up that maybe they're not doing so well. You know, it should be no different than if somebody's has come to you and said that they have a major medical physical health issue. So if I could get, you know, the perspective of anybody that I talk to sort of shift into that when it comes to mental health, and that, you know, don't just, I hate the word just, because what you'll hear a lot of times is people saying, well, just go for a walk, or just try to think, you know, more positive. And I can promise you, if that was the cure to this, we would all be much better off in our world. But there is no just answer for what people are going through. It takes a comprehensive, probably lifelong approach to managing what they're going through. And they can be very successful at it. People can become very healthy, be incredibly successful, both professionally, personally, financially. There's nothing that has to hold you back. even substance use is on the same thing there. The stigma around it is unfortunate, and really that there is nothing that is any different from anybody that's experiencing those things than you and the people that are around you all the time. You just may not recognize it in them. So it's important to just have that same attitude towards just love people and help them through their journey, and ask them what's the best way that you can support them. And, and sometimes not saying anything is the right thing. It's just to say, I'm here for you. So
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point that you made about, the 1 in 5. That is, yeah, it's a number. When you think about it, you're like, you immediately start thinking about your family and your friends, like, oh my gosh, yeah, wow, there are potentially a lot more people facing barriers that I don't even know about.
absolutely.
So that's a big deal. And I know, Jason talks sometimes on dual diagnosis, and that's something else you all deal with as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know what the future holds, but at some point, the idea of dual diagnosis is just that somebody struggles with both a mental health issue and a substance use issue, and both are from a clinical perspective diagnosed a certain way, and the treatment options vary, obviously, because there's different approaches, but at the same time they really do. They're two sides of the same coin oftentimes. So it's really the approach isn't a whole lot different in the sense of that it's really trying to help them understand what's brought them to that place, what they can do to prevent finding themselves where they were in their life that brought them to a place where they were homeless and jobless, and so it doesn't really, as we look at it from our perspective, there are some differences in the approach, but in general, it's the same treatment. It's the same approach in the sense that we're there to help them get better through what they're going through, and you won't oftentimes find somebody who is struggling with substance use that doesn't also that one of the main reasons that even exists in their life is because that they've been maybe self-medicating a mental health or physical health condition, and so it's very much tied together, which is why having a whole health approach is so important, because the whole person needs to be treated, not just the stigmatized diagnosis. We don't like to label people. We don't like to say that it's not that somebody is bipolar. It's that somebody is struggling with bipolar disorder. It's the person is going through something. They are not the thing that they are labeled. So
Exactly. What's a way that someone could contact one of your services? Say, for example, someone's just been having a hard time. They're going through maybe, let's say, a grief period, and they want to talk to someone. They want to, see what options. What's some different ways that they can reach out?
Sure,
to
absolutely.
your group?
If they do have access to technology, they can look up, CenterPoint on their website. I'm going to lean over here for a second. I keep business cards in my back pocket. So
And we will make sure we post those links.
Yes.
Up
Okay.
and any numbers too. Kurt.
Okay. So the Centerpoint website's, for those that have access to a computer or a smartphone. Also, you can just call our outpatient clinic. It's 402-475-5161, and they'll try to walk you through. But primarily we do have a walk-in clinic over on 1000 E Street.
Yes.
And so just off of 13th and E is our current location. We will be moving sometime in the next 8 to 12 months, depending on construction, into our new home over at the Campus for Health and Wellbeing on South Street, right off of 11th and South, I think. So that'll be our future location. But in the meantime, right there off of 13th and E, you can walk in. We have a crisis team available at all times if you do want to talk to somebody right in that moment. Otherwise, we can try to get you in as soon as we can to see whichever provider to meet whatever need to do an assessment and find out what it is exactly that you need. However, if you are having a true crisis in the moment, we do have a crisis line you can call, and that number is 402-475-6695. and there will be a professional on the other end who can help you and connect you to resources and help talk you through what's going on and try to make sure that, to get you what you need in that moment. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll make sure we get those up. And
Okay.
one of the big objectives for us is, especially with our nonprofit partners, both with Jason's Heart and Soren Group, is really just trying to share with everyone what you all do. I think we're very blessed in Lincoln to have, probably on a scale of 10 being the best in as far as Lincoln and Nebraska in general. We're probably an 8 or 9, if not a 10, as far as the network of opportunities and services and folks like you all doing that really difficult work, and the fact that our nonprofits are like a well-oiled machine in this state.
Yeah. And Lincoln in particular, we have a really close community amongst, resources. We share resources with each other and we work together, and it's pretty awesome to see that. And here in Lincoln in particular, because it's not, this is CenterPoint's job and this is the other organization's job. We have a really good relationship with our partners that do the same work that we do, because we all are in it together, and we want to see people succeed, no matter what. And so it is good to see that in Lincoln and in Nebraska in general.
And that's one thing that I've said before, but when I first came here and I started working with those nonprofits, just seeing how they were tied together, how they work so well together. It's all about who they're working, with to, like you said, help them stay well. I love how you said that.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that if you don't mind.
Yeah, no.
That's a good way to put things. So, that is, we are very blessed to have the community we have around here.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and gosh, it's, we stand in awe of all of you so often, and I think it's important for us to share that, because, we see what you all do and understand the importance of it, and the difficulty and challenges you guys face, and the work you do, and how valuable it is. But we just try really hard to, help you share that message, make sure your systems work as far as Soren Group goes, and Jason's Heart maybe bringing that apprenticeship program in, so we have another resource, another what's next for people, so they don't get caught. I always say, when you're facing a life barrier and there's not always a plan, it's like you were saying, it's that timing, and just trying to make sure there's no donut holes that someone can fall into, that there's always a plan, there's always a path, and we keep them moving down that.
Absolutely.
So, well, that's really all I have, Kurt. I really appreciate you being here and telling everyone about CenterPoint and sharing some of your experience and all of that. And obviously, we look forward to continuing to work with you all and do everything we can to support, the difference you guys are trying to make here in Nebraska and Lincoln.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Yes, it was very good.
All right, gents. Well, I'm going to call that a wrap, and we'll keep pushing for CenterPoint and all the work you do. And again, we'll make sure we get everything up there for Kurt and CenterPoint and how to reach out to them for assistance. So with that, I will say good day, gentlemen.